Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Squat Cobbler. I'm Kelly at KELLYTHUL on Twitter and Instagram.
And I'm Dr. Mike at Official Pagan on everything.
And now would be a good time for you to hit like and subscribe to the Bog Panda YouTube channel.
We are closing in on 300 subscribers at the time we're recording this.
Yes, super close, and we'll have to. Uh, so ultimately, that 1,000 number is really important to us because that starts to open the door for monetization. Back in the good old days before that was there, we monetized some of our other stuff, and while it was never big money, it was kind of fun to at least watch traffic and stuff come in. Then Google changed all the rules on us, so it's a slow climb to that big number, but it's been awesome, all the new subscribers we've gotten, and to just be a couple short of 300 is great progress. So tell your friends, tell your neighbors. We really appreciate it.
And I think now would be a good time to throw out there too. Kelly has told me off mic, so I believe it's okay to say this, that if we hit 1,000 subscribers this year, he's going to throw a giant party for all of
Yeah,
our subscribers at his house.
yeah. It'll be a virtual party. Hold it. We ought to think about something though for maybe 500 and 1,000 to see if we can kind of have whatever that subscriber is, or just actually draw from any of those first 500 subscribers or 1,000 subscribers. I think we can provide a little incentive if we can, and as a way to say thank you. So we will continue to ponder that. As always,
I vote party at Kelly's house.
yeah. As always, when you watch our videos, really important to watch those captions that run across the bottom. They really clean a lot of stuff up for you. And so,
Don't get me wrong, Kelly. Masks are required, clothing is optional.
okay. Well, we're here to do a public service. We want to remind everybody Sunday's a big day. And so, what you definitely do not want to forget is that it's National Owners Day this Sunday, February 14th, from 9 a.m. till 9 p.m. And I don't know if that's kind of be important to know which time zone that is. I don't know if you picked that up.
That's a good point. Yeah, I don't think I noticed a time zone on there.
Yep. There's one on there. I'm sure we'll use those captions again to clarify it for you. But
Yeah, because we knew.
we
We
knew
definitely knew.
we just wanted to kind of use the captions again. But they're oh, by the way, it's also Valentine's Day, so no better
Owners Day.
no better way to spend Valentine's Day to say, see ya, I'm gonna go look at some new stuff to buy. And sure, it always goes over extremely well with the significant other. So, but it's pretty cool. AtGames has sent out some emails on it. They put some content out. There's already some YouTube videos out on a couple of the big things because they're going to be introducing some new offerings. There's also going to be, I think, some giveaways and contests and some sales on the AtGames site. I have seen a little bit of chatter. The Legends Pinball folks are getting a little salty. The pre-order folks that are still in pre-order status and haven't gotten anything are getting a little say, yeah, great new products. How about you get me what you were talking about earlier, which is fair. AtGames has been pretty good about talking about the kind of challenges of products there, getting it here, a bit of a challenge, container ships and uh, limited inventory to get across that way, and some challenges they've had to actually kind of get it in there. But it sounds like from a production standpoint, they're pretty good, so they're not hiding behind that. But it sounds like actually just some of the shipping and stuff is a challenge. But it will be interesting to see what else goes on sale, what other offerings are there. Um, so this will be your first National Owners Day. Mine too, Mike, as at game product owners. So we were thinking we might do a live, from 9 to 9 broadcast that day,
Yes.
because I'm sure everybody would like that. As we hit refresh on the Facebook page or go over and do this or that. Be fascinating watching, but perhaps not. Maybe we'll do a quick check-in. Who knows? But we will definitely be checking in and taking a look at it. Your reaction in general to just kind of what's all going to go on that day, and then we do want to talk about a couple of the products we've at least seen.
So I got the email this morning, like everybody else. Um, I perused the images that were on there, and of course, more details have leaked online throughout the day, and people have been dissecting that and coming up with their own theories on things. Two things on there in particular caught my attention. As far as Owner's Day itself, because this is all new to me, I wasn't familiar with Owner's Day.
It's my first owner's day too. So, but it's a cool
We're
idea.
losing our Owner's Day virginity together.
That's right. There's no arcade one up owner's day, is there?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Or maybe you just aren't invited. That might be.
That's yeah,
Yeah,
that's a possibility.
that could be. That could be.
I'm not on the list.
Yeah, it should be fun on that. But of course, one of the biggest things are some of the pictures that were just pictures to begin with. But then, as Mike mentioned, some additional details came out. So, which two caught your eye? I mean, I think obviously know one of them.
So there's another cabinet, a new Legends cabinet that's on there. The cabinet I think we've all really been begging for, Tetris.
There you go.
I think that's what the masses have been clamoring for. But clearly it is a smaller version of the Legends Ultimate Arcade Tetris branded. I'm gonna say here's the one negative thing I'm gonna say about AtGames in this and the whole Owner's Day thing. AtGames does not understand how to put artwork onto their onto their equipment here. Like we talked about with the pinball. I do not love the pinball artwork. They really go for that whole multi-cade sort of look with things and combining different artworks. I don't like that. So in a way, I should be more excited because at least this is single game branded kind of thing. Except that it's Tetris, and it's weird. It's a weird one to go with.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm sure and I think it's going to come with 150 games, and I'm sure
150. Yeah.
I'm sure it's one of the 150, but is it the killer? Oh,
Yeah.
wow, you come down to the game room, and although I mean Tetris is universal, there's I mean,
Oh no, I love Tetris, but Tetris.
I mean, because just from a nostalgia standpoint, Space Invaders is like a home run. Missile Command would be big. Burger Time, even. I mean, I think there's a lot of different ways you could go, but I really think to kind of go hard retro, that Space Invaders type of thing, it'd be perfect.
Well, here's one thing I wondered. One of the videos that I had shared with you did bring something up. So there's a reason that the other home arcade ones don't call themselves 3/4 scale and have slightly different look than the arcade one-up ones, which are arcade one-up was the first one to do that, to sort of make the home arcade stuff existed, but to come up with the form factor that they did, and they patented a lot of that, which is why all of the other arcade units that have come out since then have been similar to what it looked like you were with your unboxing video with your Legends Ultimate, where the top part of the unit is essentially assembled and you're just kind of sitting it on top of the base. Every other major player in this home arcade space has done it that way. iArcade does it that way. The Neo Geo cabinet is that way. And there's a few others that all do it exactly the same way because of the patents on Arcade 1-Up. This seems, as that video pointed out, to directly conflict with the patents that now as they also pointed out in the video, though, that sort of litigation is incredibly expensive. So are they going to go down that route? I don't know. Is this going to be a thing? Who knows? But one thing that did just occur to me as we were kind of talking this out. So Space Invaders, Burger Time, a lot of those ones. Arcade 1-Up already has cabinets of those. So maybe this was an issue of, all right, let's make it not look like an Arcade 1-Up cabinet as much as possible.
What's available? Tetris.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tetris. All right, fuck it. Let's just do a Tetris cabinet.
2600 artwork. We'll go ahead with
Now there was a Tetris arcade cabinet. Tetris
True.
was in the
Yep.
arcades. I don't think I ever played it in an arcade. Did you?
No. Nope. Ah, I take that back. I've had to. I had to at least some. But I couldn't tell you anything about the cabinet. And it.
Yeah, I could not tell. Like this might be true to the cat. I have no idea if that's true to the cabinet or not. But it does have, it's branded for a game, not the multicade thing. So I do like that. So the other thing that caught my eye, I do have more to say about the cabinet, but the other thing that caught my eye before we get too far into that was a controller, because my biggest complaint about the course so far is the controller situation. I have found myself pretty much the only way I can get any controller to work is I have to power on the unit, power it off, and then power it back on to recognize whatever controller
Gotcha.
it is that I'm using. So maybe this will help with
Yeah,
that.
I'm hopeful. Yeah, because I'll be very interested. So those were my top two of interest too, particularly kind of the other one that I expect there's some interest on, but unfortunately for Mike and I, it's not an immediate priority. Is it looks like they're building a replacement deck for the top of the Legends Pinball that is still maintains the pinball keys on the side, but actually gives you game-like controllers on the top, joystick buttons and all those types of things, so that since you can go into the ecosystem and play non-pinball stuff, you have more appropriate controllers for that, which I think is pretty clever idea. That's dead space on a pinball machine anyway, so why not kick it up and be able to take kind of full advantage of playing that? I don't know how much I'd rather play. I'd rather have my screen vertical when I'm playing a game
Yeah.
than laying down. But unless it's pinball, so we'll have to see how that goes. But yeah, the controller I'm intrigued by too. I'll be very intrigued on price point. So I hope we've mentioned before on some of our shows. I got the core, and they said Xbox controller is the way to go. So I went out and bought a controller that basically was the same price as the core, and have had some success, slightly more than Mike in terms of. Well, it's kind of hit and miss for me. I've always got to mess with it some to kind of get that initial connection. And once I'm on, I'm pretty good with it, but it is thing. So if this actually pairs up better and comes in at less than the price of a core, I'll be a
Well,
happy
see,
guy.
and that's going to be a big thing because controllers aren't cheap. Even like the 8-bit style controllers that I'm using mainly on the core right now, that I use on my Raspberry Pi setup and everything like that, like those are $40 or something like that. So if this is coming in at $40 or $50, you're essentially just rebuying the core.
Yeah.
So I think it's a tough one because the other option is the cheaper controllers, like something would come with this Super Console X, where it's just an afterthought and you're going to use different controllers for it once you get up and going on that. So then what's the point if it's a cheaper controller like that?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think price point is going to be really, really important for the controller.
Yeah, and then hopefully they think about packaging a little bit because um, to go lay the money out for a core and turn around if you don't have a controller, lay the same amount of money out again or close to the same amount is a different thing. But we've talked about how aggressively priced the core is to begin with, and so
Right.
why don't you take some of the aggressiveness out? Make the core an $80 product or a $90 product, but include one of those controllers with it, and then you're golden. I think that'd be a much better way to go about it. But maybe that's where things will go eventually. But as early adopters, we're going through the multi-stage process of it. So we'll see.
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about the cabinets. So my biggest, Mike's got a lot of arcade one up. I'm a Legends Ultimate guy. Some of that kind of comes into each of our kind of situations, in that Mike has an arcade to fill. He has a dedicated room. He needs to populate it. The arcade one up model is excellent for that. Um, I, uh, I do not have equal zoning permission to grow to a large to a large footprint of systems. So here with the Legends, I've been able to kind of really enjoy quite a few games on one platform. And I really liked the fact that the Legends is, 90% size. It's nearly full size, good sturdy box, good cabinet from that. And with the AtGames, minus riser, definitely kind of a tough play. With the riser, they're close, but even an arcade one up with a riser is still smaller than the Legends. So it's interesting that now we'll have a 3/4 Legends, but so again, it'll come down to price point for me a little bit. So what does that run? Because there's obviously one feature we'll talk about here in a second, which kind of does make it unique. But
Yeah, that's tough for me because I know exactly what you're talking about. It's interesting, but there's a problem I can see with that. And also there's one more drawback to the unit from the pictures. And that drawback I think is important to mention, which is it appears to only be one player.
yep, no, I think you're accurate on that because I think the drop-in control panel is actually the AtGames Mini, which is a
Right.
one-player deal. 8 buttons, 8 play buttons, but one joystick, no trackball, I don't think. So I think that's a drawback for sure. It's been interesting to see some of the chatter in the different kind of forums and groups and etc. Today there are a lot of folks there are some folks that are excited about it and say seems like this is right on track with what they need to do, and there are a lot of other folks going like, why would I want this? This isn't. I want to stay with the legend size. I want to kind of have the 2 player. I want to do all that. I think it's a pretty intriguing offer. I do think it's going to come down to if there's only like $50 difference between this and what you pay for a Legends. It's a weird conversation, with the one exception of, and I'm not 100% sure how this is going to work in the real world, but the monitor you can rotate the monitor, so you can go to play pinball in particular, which is one of the great features on the core, is that you can rotate your view to kind of go from landscape to portrait, which is awesome for pinball. But you've got to have pinball to play on it, because otherwise you're playing your games, because it tilts the whole thing that way. But it looked to me, at least on the current state, that's going to say, oh yeah, you can rotate it, but it's not like you hit the rotate button and the screen turns. It's you take these 4 screws out, pull the plexi off, turn the monitor, put the plexi back on, and you're good to go. Which is not super slick,
No, it's an interesting prospect, the rotating monitor. The actual implementation of that doesn't seem that easy though.
Nope.
I don't want to break out a drill and take apart half of the machine every time I want to switch games between pinball and a standard arcade game. Also, and again, I am not mechanically inclined. You're going to strip those screws and those holes and stuff pretty quickly, right?
I would think there's a good chance.
Yeah.
I think how they will fasten the final product, how they fasten it's going to be critical, because that's it. I do, and I know it would be more cost and more engineering and more weight to kind of figure it all out. But to basically build kind of a circular pivot, having the monitor resting inside a circular pivot where you could rotate it kind of on its axis, press a couple buttons to unlock it, and then turn it. So it was just kind of almost like when you open a pill bottle kind of thing, where you just kind of click and turn. That would be just so much better, because when hardware is involved, it's just, that's now it's a project. It's not like, oh, hey, let's play this game, and you just change the configuration. I do think having that option is super cool. I think that'll be great. I think being able to allow you to do that on your cabinet. I really wish I could do it on my Legends, but I can't. So having that capability is good. It's just how it's kind of rolling out is a little challenging, because part of it probably depends on how much you're going to go back and forth. So I've seen, at least when I think it was maybe in the video you shared, somebody musing about, well, maybe people will buy two, and they'll have one landscape and one portrait. And I was like, well, that price point better be really good for me to kind of to do that.
Yeah.
Your Tetris army lined up.
Yeah.
So, we'll see. But some interesting stuff coming for sure.
Yeah, conceptually, it's really interesting. The biggest drawback, though, for me with this is the one player. And it really brings into question, and like you said, it looks to be the AtGames mini control panel. I know they're calling this 3/4 scale. I can't see how it is, and it just has that one player, though. It seems like it would have to be smaller than the Arcade 1-Up games. Because again, Arcade 1-Up are all 2-player, and I even have a 4-player Arcade 1-Up, which is a larger cabinet, sure, but you can fit two of those on there. So when it's scaled down to that size, I'm picturing something that's much smaller than Arcade 1-Up. Even if it's the 3/4 scale height, I'm picturing something width-wise that's a lot smaller.
Yep. It'll be interesting to see as we get the actual specs and kind of size it up and see. It's intriguing. It's yet another good offer. The II Arcade stuff's out there. It's interesting. There's just, I mean, it's a buyer's market in terms of lots of cool options, and AtGames does seem to be swinging hard to try and get some cool stuff out there. See how some of this lands. Arcade 1-Up is also obviously with the legacy cabinets and some of these things also putting out some pretty good stuff as well. So it remains a good time to be a retro gamer.
Absolutely. And I think the most important thing to ask would be, and I'll ask it to you, would this, if it came down to getting the AtGames Legends actual pinball table, or getting this with the rotating monitor with the pinball functionality, which would you choose?
I still think I go with pinball.
Yeah.
Because it's just form factor. I like that. I like the look of that unit a lot. I like the size of it. I'm still thinking that's the next major purchase. Gonna kind of let the dust settle with the pre-orders and let them kind of get the system working and some things out there. But once that actually becomes a product that I could place an order for, it's still top of the list. And I'm gonna think there'd be some ways I can kind of mess around with my existing Legends to allow me to do some of that vertical gaming. Not with the existing monitor there, but see what I can do to kind of have a second monitor available. That I just got to figure out if there's a way that I can kind of configure it that it would be easy enough to place kind of on the unit without being overly disruptive. But we'll see. I'm assuming you're kind of the same way, that in terms of...
Yeah, I like it. All this looks interesting, but the one player, first off, kind of sucks, just in the sense of if I'm giving up floors, because I mean, while I do have a whole room I'm dedicating to this, eventually I'm going to run out of space. So dedicating floor space to something only one person can play versus, a pinball table. Yeah, one person can stand at the pinball table at a time, but form factor wise, you're getting a lot more out of it that way. The rotating monitor looks cool, but am I going to stand there and on the screen? Like if we're having a party and a bunch of people are over and it's like, hey, everybody, wait, we just need to do some mild construction.
One moment.
Everybody just kind of take a step back. We're going to, I can't see that being a practical thing for everyday use. And then, of course, I know they're saying 3/4 scale. That might be true of height, but width, I can't imagine. I have to see what it looks like up against other cabinets, because I would think is going to be a much narrower cabinet than the Arcade 1-Up cabinets, which have a nice, arcade feel to it, the way that the Legends Ultimate appears to have. This seems like it'd be something that's much narrower, which doesn't really appeal to me.
Yep, I agree completely. Cool. Well, we'll kind of wrap this one up, but and Mike and I will continue to ponder what we're going to do for subscriber. Once we hit 500 subscribers, and then hopefully 1,000.
Party Kelly's.
But yeah, or I'd like to point out one free 8x10 and keychain from Mike's old time photo saloon that's going to be in his arcade. So there's that too. So we'll off the air. Mike and I will sort this out a little bit more, but there will be options. Thank you for those who have subscribed. We really appreciate it. If you haven't and do, we really appreciate that as well. And thanks for watching, folks.
Thanks, everybody.